everyone. Now today I'm going to be talking about something that I was actually asked on one of the videos that I put up on YouTube on how, if you would happen to come across some patterns on the internet or in a book, how would you adapt those patterns so that you can use them on a loom. Firstly, let me just take out all the looms and I can show you. This is the smallest one of the long looms. They come in 4 sizes usually when you buy them. The biggest one is this one. This one has got 62 pegs. This one has 50 pegs. This one has 38 pegs. And the last one has 26 pegs. Yeah, 26. Yeah, correct. So this is all correct. They are the number of pegs that they are those now figures. Hang on, let me take the round loom and I can show you the round loom. This is the largest of the long round loom. This one can make has 41 pegs. The others, just a sec. Got them in their little. They came in one of these bags, you know. Goodness me, it's not opening. Okay, after some struggling I managed to get them out. This one is the 41 peg round loom. This one is the 36 peg. This one the 31 peg, and the last one has got 24 pegs. Yeah. So okay, now let me explain more or less how each one, what is the sizes that they can make. The long loom, the very long loom, this one I've actually tested it, so I know for sure this is the length. If you were to make a flat panel meaning that means you start here and you end here and you do not continue here. That means you go back again in this direction to finish here. If you were to do that, you will get a flat panel, and this one is 62 pegs, will give you a 22-inch flat panel. This one will give you an 18-inch flat panel. This one will give you 14. Now this one I'm not very sure because I've not actually worked on it, but when I bought it, when in the description it said that this could make a 14-inch flat panel. I'm not sure whether it can because I've not actually tried that. And this one is supposed to be able to make a 10-inch flat panel also, which I cannot confirm. These two I can confirm definitely gives you a 22 and 18-inch flat panel. Again, this one I can confirm depending on how you knit. That means how loosely you knit. You can get between an 18 and a 19-inch flat panel on this loom. And this one will give you a 14-inch. Now these two I don't know how much they can give you, but I think this one also in the description, this one said about 10 inches. This one I have absolutely no idea, but I think this one is used for babies' hats, so I'm unable to confirm what size the flat panel this one can do. What you can do is that you could try to make a knitted piece on this, a flat piece, maybe about this length. Let it rest for about a couple of days after you take it out, and then you measure it, and that should give you an indication of what is the measurement of the flat panel that you could make with this after you take it off the pegs. You take it off the pegs and let it rest for a day or two, and then you take the measurement of the flat piece that you make out of it. Again, flat would mean that you go from here, you finish here, and then go back again, knitting all the way back and forth like this will give you a flat panel. Okay, now that I've explained to you what are the general sizes that you can expect from these looms, let me now discuss patterns that you might find on the internet. Now, as I said before, for copyright purposes, I can't actually print out a pattern and show you. So as I have had no choice but to show you through my terrible diagrams, which I've drawn here. Now, this one, I wonder whether you can see, because sometimes it's not very apparent. Let me just check. The camera is actually catching what I'm showing. All right. Now here, this one, This one is a skirt. This is my own pattern, okay. I've done this before using an elastic band. You make a rectangle piece of 20 inches by 42. So 20 inches means you can't use this because this can only make 18. You have to make it with this one. But this one makes a 22 inch. If you were to use every single peg, you would be using, you would get a final piece of 22 inches. So you don't want 22 inches. You only want 20 inches. Now if you want a 20 inch piece, that means as you work this part of it, all of it, the width will be 20. The length that you work that will go down in this direction will be 42. That will be around your hips. So what you do is you take a tape, you measure your hips, the largest portion of your hips. That will give you the circumference, the width that you would need to make for your skirt, so that it would go all around and you join up the ends. And that means if you make a flat piece, after you finish the piece, like let's say this is the skirt, the piece that you've made, you just join this part to here, and then you put an elastic up here and you will get a skirt. It's a very easy pattern, and you can make it with whatever yarn you want to do that would work with this. I think about 2 strands of 4-ply would work very well on this, or a 5mm thread single also you can use on these pegs. Whereas of course if you were to make it on this one, you can't do that. This one and this one will give you a shorter skirt. The largest size that you can make on this round loom is 18 to 19. So you can, if you want thicker yarn, you can make it with this and you will be able to get 18 to 19. You won't get 20 with this one, because it's the maximum width of that piece on that round loom is only 18 to 19, depending on how loose you knit. Now after you cast on. Now since you're only doing 20 inches, how do you know how much to cast on when you have a loom that can make 22 inches? The maximum, if you were to start from here and end here, you would get 22 inches, but you don't want 22 inches, you only want 20. So what you do is, you can take a calculator, and the system, the ratio is very simple. 62 pegs, which is the whole number of pegs that is on this loom, gives you 22 inches. But you don't want that. So you put on one side of the diagram, on one side of your equation, you put your measurement. That means 22, you put down 22 inches equals 62 pegs. Alright? And you want 20. So if you want 20, the way to do it is 20 multiplied by 62 divided by 22. This will give you the exact number of pegs that you will need. 20 multiplied by 62 divided by 22 gives you something's wrong, wait, hang on. 20 times by 62 divided by 22, that will give you 56 pegs. So you count 56 pegs and you only cast on 56 pegs, and that will give you a rectangle. At the end of it, when you work 42 inches, it should give you 20-inch width when you work. Alright, that's one way of doing it. Now again, you can also make a shrug. This is a shrug that is 38 inches long. By here, it's between 19 and 20. So you can use the same, you can use this one, or if you want, you can use this one also, because it's about 19 to 20. So you can make it on this also, a flat panel on this, and you work 38 inches. This one, if you were to use it, you'll use all the pegs. So what will happen is that you start from here, you end here, and then go back again, and you will get a flat panel going back and forth. Making knit stitches, you can get a flat panel of about 19 inches. And you work the length, that means as you go down, it will work down this way. That length would be 38 inches. And you can create a shrug with this pattern. one day I will actually, if you need patterns, you know, free patterns, you can actually go to this site. It's called Lion Brand. They have a production of yarn. They have a lot of free patterns, you know, and you can look for their shrug patterns, and they will even explain to you how to do up the shrug after you have created a rectangle piece like this, you know. Now, the important thing for you to realize when you get patterns on the internet is that you cannot work on the yarn, on these looms, if you get instructions written, like for instance, if it says cast on 42 stitches, work knit 2, purl 2, rib for such an for 7.5 centimeters or for 3 inch, those instructions you cannot convert. What you need to do is that when you find a pattern that you like, you must look whether the pattern has a diagram in it. If it has a diagram, you will be able to convert that diagram into what you could work on a loom, just with the measurements, you see, because the measurements there would, of course, will not correlate, you know. It will not be the same. It will not be, for instance, if it tells you to work 50 stitches, when you calculate, you may use more pegs or less depending on which loom you're using. They will not be the same. You cannot expect what they say that you have 60 stitches or to work 10 rows. It will absolutely not be the same. However, the finished measurements will follow what the diagram says if you convert each of those measurements. That means, for instance, okay, let's take a sweater. Okay, I was going to tell you about the sweater. Hope it's brighter now. I put on the light. Now I have drawn here a sweater. This one is a very simple sweater. No? The back and the front is exactly the same with a very simple sleeve. It's 18 inches and here it is actually 30 inches. So this 18, you can work it on either this loom if you want more thick yarn, you know. So you can here you can actually use up to 3 to 4 strands of 4mm threads, you know. That means if a yarn has, you look at the yarn and it says it needs a 4mm crochet hook or knitting needle, that means it's a 4mm. I think that's called worsted if I'm not mistaken, and in Australia they call that 4-ply, you know. So you can use either 3 to 4 strands. It means you're using each one, you know. That means you use 4 balls together, and so you have 4 strands, and you can make quite a very thick, in fact, sweater with something like that. But if you don't want something so thick, like, you know, here in Rome also it's not really that cold, you can use this one. And or yes, since it's 18, in fact you can use this. This will give you 18 exactly, you know. This will actually is more, it's 22. So since what you want is an 18, the length of the sweater, that means from the shoulder to your waist is about 18 inches. So you use this one, you cast from here, you go here, and then you go back again. This will be, you work back and forth until you get 30 inches. Now, the problem that you're going to have is where you're going to have to work the neck. Now for 18, you don't actually have an issue with the 18 because you just work on every peg. Now, and 30 also, you just have to measure when you get the length that you've worked, you measure the length that you have worked. But the problem now comes how you are going to do the neck. Now, since you're working a piece that is coming in this direction all the way, that means you're working from here, you will start off, you cast off, you work in this way, you know. You're not working in the normal way where when you make sweaters using knitting needles or a normal pattern, you would work it from here and then you would go in this direction. But when you work it on the loom, you're not working it in that way. You're working it in this direction. So what happens is that here, this is a 3-inch drop, your neck, you know. So when you reach 9 inches, you have to reduce the stitches to create the neck, and then here you increase it back to the this one has 50 pegs. So when you reach here, the 50 pegs will have to be reduced for 3 inches. So how do you know how much to reduce? 3 inches. Again, use the same calculation. You have 50 pegs gives you 18 inches, but you want 3 inches. So it will be 3 multiplied by 50 pegs divided 3 multiplied by divided by 18. That will give you 8 pegs. You have to remove 8 pegs. Of course, you have to do it gradually. So again, the calculation is this way. You know that this has 50 pegs, and 50 pegs gives you 18 inches, but you want 3 inches. The reason you have to always work with ratios is because these pegs are fixed, you know. So the size, the gauge is always the same. And for you to adapt any pattern, you cannot follow the instructions that is written in the pattern, but you have to use what gauge you get from your loom. So that is why you use this method where you say 18 inches equals 50 pegs. 3 is 3 times 50 divided by 18, which gives you 8 pegs. And you have to reduce these 8 pegs and work it for 12 inches. So what you do is, when you reach here, you have to reduce every row or every other row. You reduce until you get 8 inches. Sorry, 8 pegs. So 8 pegs you remove, you will be left with 50 minus 8 pegs will give you 42 pegs. So then you work for 12 inches, the 42 pegs you work. Then when you reach here, you see, for instance here, when you have reduced for every 8 rows, let's say you reduced for 16 rows you reduced. So when you reach about the length that you find that you'll be able to measure, you know, as you work here, you measure how much you actually reduced here. So let's say you reduced for 2 inches or 3 inches here. So before you reach the end here, that means before you reach exactly 12, if you worked it for 3 inches, the 8 rows, sorry, the 8 pegs, if you reduce them for 3 inches, similarly at the 9-inch point, you begin to increase it again for 8 pegs until you get back to 50 pegs. This is how you work, and you work it only on one side, you know, because this side is straight. So let's say that you started it here and you've ended it here. So when you want to do the decrease, you only do it on one side. So every other row you decrease until you have exactly 8 stitches have been removed. And you did this maybe for 3 inches, the length of it. So when you come back to having to go back again to increase the stitches, you stop at 9 inches and then you begin to add every other row. You just add the stitch back again and you will get back your neckline to the original part here, back again to this part. So you get the decrease and then you get the increase, and then you work 9 inch and you finish it. That's how you work a neckline for sweater. And for the sleeve, you cast down for 15 inches. Now 15 inches again, same principle, 15 times by 50 pegs divided by 18. And that will give you the number of pegs that you'll have to cast on. And since this is a gradual decrease, and you calculate here how much the sleeve is supposed to be here is about 10 inches here. The final length of the sleeve here is 10 inches. So you reduce it by 5 inches. Again, find out how much 5 inches will be. 5 multiplied by 50 divided by 18 will give you 5 multiplied by 50 pegs divided by 18. That gives you 14 pegs that you have to reduce. But this one, the 14 pegs will have to be worked on both sides. That means 7 reduce on this side and 7 on this side. So you reduce them very gradually, divide it by the 14 inches that is here. You do 7 pegs on this side and 7. So as you work, let's say it comes up to here maybe. So you reduce one side here and you reduce here, and you will get a sloping sleeve. In fact, one of the I think it was the cardigan, I actually explained how to reduce for the sleeve, if you are having difficulty understanding that part. But anyway, this video I'm trying to explain to you just how to adapt the patterns that you find on the internet to what you could use. Even For instance, someone asked me about patterns for babies. You can find also in the same site, this Lion Brand, or even books and all that. If they have diagrams on it, you can adapt it using maybe the smaller loom. One thing I must point out, these pegs are not identical. This one is actually bigger, and also the spacing between them are not the same. You know, they're slightly different, you know. So when you do a piece, don't go and take you say that, okay, I'm going to work the sleeve in this one and I will work the body in this. You can't do that. Don't do that, because the pegs are slightly off, you know. They are not exactly the same, you know. The sizes also are not exactly the same. That's, anyway, I think so. There is a slight variance between one and the other. And of course, these pegs are really big. In fact, you can actually see that very clearly here, you know. Look at that. You can see that. You see that this one, the peg difference is, the space between the pegs are actually very different. That's why you can't work one part of the sweater in this loom and then work the rest of it in this. If you are using anything, always work all the pieces on the same loom. I hope I'm clear. Someone mentioned that I talk too fast when I'm giving instructions. Okay, if you have any questions, just ask them on this at the bottom there in the comments, and I'll try and explain. Happy looming, everyone. Before I signed off on this video, I just wanted to show you this little thing. It's so cute. I got this at Amazon. It's a little loom, actually, tiny loom, but you can make straps out of them. This one, the bigger part, you can actually make a strap for a bag. You know, the one I told you, Virginia Galligan's channel, she teaches you how to make bags, you know, with the looms. And for the strap for the bag, you can actually make it here. You know what you can do is, if you want a tubular, that means a thicker strap, you just go round and round and round and you'll get a tubular strap. And this one, you can actually make a spaghetti top straps with this. So, you know, let's say you make a spaghetti top, you can actually do it on the loom, you know. You take your chest measurement, which is, let's say you have a chest measurement of 636. So you work you measure from your chest just around where your spaghetti strap is going to start to around your waist, let's say about 14 inches. So you work a 14 inch by 36 inch, and then you join the ends together. Then you make straps with this and you get a spaghetti strap top. It's really quite a nice one. This one, I think it's from Boy. This was the thing I was talking about, the ridges, you know. When you're working, these ridges actually get in the way, you know. That's why I didn't quite recommend using the looms that were from there, because of this thing, you know. When you're lifting them, this ridge is good. This one is also, this is in fact very, very good, because you can use, when you use your tool, your loom tool, it's easy for you to lift and go across. But this part here, this one, it tends to catch, you know. So when you try to work fast, what happens is that it'll get caught on this thing, you know. That's why I don't particularly like this design, you know. But, you know, some people find it very good because, you know, it's very secure. Well, it's up to you, you know. So this is just an addendum. Anyway, try it out, Lina.